and you're ready.
All right, we are ready now. So, guys, this is today's history lesson. We went and talked last week about what gun did we talk about last week?
Talked about a Thompson submachine guns last week.
Thompson submachine gun. Again, we have another full auto in front of us. Tell us a little bit about it, and we will start overall. Tell us what the gun is called and where it came from.
Okay, it is called a ZB-26. It's a Czech design. Designed in Czechoslovakia. They come out in 1924. The Czech Army adopted them in 1926. They say the ZB stands for light machine gun, 26 year of adoption.
So you were telling me earlier, right here on the front, basically you might zoom in on this, right here on the front is the proof mark where you can say that it is Czech. It's right here on the top.
It's a little lion's head. That's
little lion's head. It's right here on the very top. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. So that is the proof mark on it. Now you were saying back with Germany, what would they do with this?
Okay, in 1938, when the Nazis invaded Czechoslovakia, of course they took over the Brno works where these were made, and they made these to the end of the war. Now the German army never did use them very much, but they were a favorite gun of the Waffen-SS. A lot of the guns that the Nazis issued would have had Waffen amps on them, which was a little eagle with a swastika. When you get to the value of them, a Nazi gun is actually worth a little more than the ones with the Czech proof marks. But the ones with the Czech proof marks
are probably a better gun.
They're actually a nicer finish.
Right.
All the parts will change. They're the same gun.
We see that a lot in the firearms community where something with certain maker's marks and proof marks will be worth more than, especially German. Okay.
And especially anything to do with the SS seems to bring more money.
Right. So let's back up a little bit. So for me, tell me what this is chambered in, okay. and just tell us a little bit about if somebody walked into it, what would they'd go, what the hell is this?
Okay. The chamber is 7.92 by 57. We call it 8mm Mauser, but actually that's the correct caliber. It was a German service round, World War I, World War II. It was also the Czech service round, the Polish service round. Most of those countries used 8mm Mauser.
So this would have never really seen work after World War II?
Actually, they did. They sold a slew of these in the 1920s and 30s to nationalist Chinese.
Okay.
And the Chinese, when the Nazis took over, the Germans wouldn't let them ship anymore to China because China was allied with the U.S. and Japan was the Nazis' allies. So the Chinese actually reverse engineered them and built their own.
Oh, okay.
And then after World War II, the Chinese converted them to 7.62 by 39, and they modified the mag well and used AK mags in them. So the Chinese
That's pretty sweet. So let's talk about this. You were showing me before we got on camera here how you actually load this. So if anybody, this is the magazine follower. You guys can kind of see that on there. You know, it is a metal follower. Anything special about magazines? Are they hard to get?
They can be hard to get. They're 20-round magazines. Now, they also made a 40-round magazine for anti-aircraft use. I've never actually seen one. I've seen pictures of them, so they are evidently quite rare.
So if I was to buy one of the magazines, how much would I expect?
Usually $80 to $100.
Okay, so about $80 to $100 magazine, guys. A little pricey. But gun is, anyway. So show us how you would load it.
Okay. This is
tip it this way so you guys can see sweet dust cover on top.
This is a dust cover to keep the dust out. And the mag, you hook it in the front.
So it's a lot like what you would expect out of an AK.
Yeah,
it has a little lip on the front. You do tip it up. So is this the release?
That's the mag release.
So you, right here, it catches. Tip that up.
And
pretty easy.
There's another interesting aspect of this mag. If you notice, it's got this big
the channel
on the follower. The mag follower is
right here.
On most submachine guns and machine guns fire from an open bolt. When the magazine's empty, the bolt goes forward. Well, the Czechs come up with a simple design. It's unloaded. Okay. In there. Now, the bolt is held open by the magazine follower. You take the magazine out, the bolt moves forward a small amount. With a fresh magazine, the follower would be out of the way.
Oh, okay.
And that way that you would not...
So, show the camera there what you're talking about. So right here at the tip.
Right here, the follower holds the bolt open on the last round. And then when you take it out, the bolt will go forward a
So
fraction.
when this comes forward, guys, what happens is it stops right here. So it will not allow it to go forward. So you can put a fresh mag in there and start firing. You do not necessarily have to chamber one.
You don't have to chamber
Right.
around, like I say, because if you look in here, it fires from an open bolt.
So explain to people what that means. Fires
Okay.
from a open bolt.
Okay, if you look at it here, I'm going to pull this back. The bolt is rearward. So you would have a magazine in it, and they would be a loaded round in the magazine. When you pull the trigger, I'm pulling the trigger, the bolt comes forward. You can see it come forward here, strips a round out of the magazine, locks into battery, and the firing pin strikes a cartridge. It fires around. If it's on semi-auto, it'll come back and lock open. Now they do that for cooling.
Okay, that makes sense.
And they also do it to keep from having cooked off. This is, an air-cooled gun, and about 150, 200 rounds continuous fire. The barrel will get so hot
So-
if they was around in the chamber, the heat would actually ignite the gunpowder, and the gun would fire
So that brings me up to 2 points. One, what is the cycle rate?
between about 500 rounds a minute. They're not particularly a fast machine gun.
For 8mm Mauser, right?
Yeah.
500 rounds. That's pretty quick. Okay, to me it is. All right, now we were also talking about if the gun does get hot, you were showing me how easy it is to change barrels out.
Before we go that, I want to do one more thing on the mag.
Sure.
The mag goes in the top, like I say, like this, and there was a reason for that. For one, if your magazine's out the bottom,
You couldn't get that flush to the ground.
well, you can get the gun lower, so the gunner has a lower profile, he's harder to hit, and the mag is a lot easier to change because you don't have the ground in the way, you can just flip it out.
Sure.
And there's another thing is gravity helps the cartridge
Sure.
feed down in it. Now the downside of that is if you look, the sights here are offset. This is your rear sight, this is your front sight, and they are offset. The width of
if
the
you guys can see
magazine.
that on camera, so this is offset. Now, while you're there on that rear sight, go ahead and show them about adjustment.
Okay, for your elevation, this is your drum adjustment. If you look, there's a window in here. That's lowest settings, 200 meters. And if you look, you turn that 300 meters, 400, so on, and it's raising the rear sight, and that's your elevation.
So again, guys, this is completely offset. I mean, you're way over here.
Yeah,
That is in there.
They were no left-handed shooters that shot these.
You're only shooting from this side. So, let's go back. Let's go ahead and talk about cooling. You were talking about shoots from the open bolt, keeps the bolt open. Now, what about changing the barrel out?
Okay, this is one of the first, if not the first, machine guns that has a quick change barrel. Matter of fact, this barrel change system modified is still used today. The M240 is similar. A lot of machine guns use this, and it's very simple to change the barrel. This is your latch. There's a little button on the bottom to keep it from coming up. You have to push the button. You turn this up 45 degrees. The handle, so you grab a hold of the handle so you don't have to touch a hot barrel. You pull the barrel off as such.
Throw a brand new barrel on.
Put another barrel on.
Now, would that be something that most people, or in wartime, would they have had extra barrels with
Yes,
them?
they always issued them with spare barrels. This is a crew-served weapon. There was more than one person that used it. So there was an assistant gunner carried ammunition, magazines, and spare barrels.
Gotcha.
They generally change barrels every 250 rounds.
So that would have been something pretty normal. These guys would have been switching barrels out pretty
Yeah,
often.
you could change barrels, like I say, about every 250 rounds and let them cool.
I mean, during a firefight, I'm sure that was pretty often. I mean, if I was switching this out, how many barrels would I usually carry in a group?
Generally, they only had one spare barrel.
Yeah, that's crazy. Just one barrel. So that'd be something they blow. So let's go a little bit higher. All right. Let's talk about, what would you call this? Would this be a muzzle brake flash hider kind of thing?
It's just a flash hider.
Okay, so you're having a flash hider. This is your front sight. Let's go a little bit lower. We're going to talk about the bipod that you're going to have here. Now, this is this is what would have been issued with this gun,
All right,
correct?
that's a bipod for the gun. And if you loosen the screws here, you can get the height of the bipod.
So this is the screw?
Yeah, you can loosen that and the bipod the legs will extend.
Copy that. So there's that. They're on each side. Now, what's this little hook right here? Is that where it collapses?
Okay.
Oh, there's a little hook right there. I see it now.
I'll show you what that's for. Put that in there. You bring this and to carry it, you latch this around the receiver. And
It's a big gun.
then you hook this like this, and then it locks the bipod up out of the way. so
Makes
it's not
sense.
flopping around in the breeze when you're transporting it.
All right. Well, at this point, while we have it up in the air, let's talk about the second dust cover. Something you were pointing out to me earlier.
Yeah, there's you've seen the dust cover on the front. There's also a dust cover on the back here
And why would they have had a second dust cover?
to keep the dirt. This is the ejection.
Same reason you would have a dust cover on the front.
Now this is the ejection port on the bottom to keep dust and dirt out of the bottom of it. So anyway,
All right, let's lay that back down here.
also there's another feature on this that you don't. It was really inventive at the time. If you look, it's a different color and the gas tube's different color. This is your gas block, taps the gas off the hole in the barrel. These are made out of stainless steel, and the gas piston's made out of stainless steel. These guns were the era of corrosive primed ammunition. And the gas system and the block was hard to clean, so they made them out of stainless steel so you wouldn't have a lot of corrosion.
Right, and so it's something we were talking about earlier. There's just a little bit of pitch up here, and you were saying that's mainly because of that type of ammunition they would have used.
Yes.
This is something that a lot of times would already been chewed away. I mean, it wouldn't be in that great shape on most of them.
Yeah, they got a lot of use. They was out in the rain and the weather, and if you was cleaning the gun, you probably didn't worry about the flash pressure.
Yeah, no
unless
kidding.
you would clean the barrel.
All right, so let's go now that we've talked about everything, and this is a period sling,
Sling,
correct?
that is a
All right,
correct
so
sling.
now we're going to move a little bit farther back. We talked about everything here. You were saying that this buttstock is actually under pressure.
This buttstock it's hard to move because it's got the stiff spring, but it's actually spring loaded. This cap on the buttstock will actually move on the buttstock, so it helps take up the recoil, so it doesn't kick so bad. Makes the gun the gun's very, very pleasant to shoot. They're a nice gun to shoot.
So let's talk a little bit about the actual use and history. Now we've been through the entire gun, so
Not quite.
okay.
Not quite.
What else would you like to talk about? So we'll talk about some history.
Well, we'll talk about one more thing I want to say. You, the guys in there who are like the AR-15s, that's not a particularly new idea either. Show the bolts forward.
So it's just like a takedown pin.
You pull out the pin. The action tips over like such. And there is your bolt and bolt carrier. And if you want to separate the upper and lower receiver, you push out the front pin that comes just apart this
It's the exact same thing.
Exactly the same thing. The AR-15 is a copy of this. Also, the way the bolt lockup is on this and the action of this, the FNFAL is a copy of the action of this gun.
That is awesome. So it's a lot of things that you would see nowadays. Just when would this particular gun have been produced? What year?
Like I say, they come out in 1924,
1924, and they made them all the way up until
1945.
1945. So this one is, again, it's a CZ product. It's a Czech product.
It's a Czech product. Yeah, like I say, I was laughing earlier. I was telling somebody, if you want to know what CZ stands for, that's it.
Yeah, if you can pronounce it,
If
I
I
can't.
can pronounce that, you're a better
too
man than
hillbilly
me.
to pronounce that. I'm sorry.
Czechoslovenska.
Yeah, there you go.
But anyway, that's
So-
what CZ stands for. CZ has been in business since right after World War I. It was actually a government arsenal.
Sure.
But anyway,
So let's talk a little bit about, we talked about rate of fire. Now, if somebody wanted to go and purchase one of these, what would they expect to buy one for in the open market?
they bring anywhere from $25,000 to $35,000 as well.
Exactly. So a full auto version like this, that's what it would bring.
Right.
So would they ever have made a semi-auto version of this? Would there have been a reason for that?
They never did. They are selective fire, but they never made a semi-auto version of it. This is your safety selector. In the center is safe, the back is semi-auto, and then this would be full auto position.
Now, do we know how many this particular style of rifle would have been produced?
Who knows?
Right.
Like
Especially during wartime, probably nobody would know.
yeah, I don't know if they have records or not. I know, like I said, they sold between 50 and 20,000 of these to the nationalist Chinese.
Which changed them into 7.62 by 39.
Right.
Most of them.
Most of them in the 50s. And matter of fact, when the Nazis took over Czechoslovakia, they cut off the supply of them to the Chinese, and they reverse engineered and made their own. And if you see a lot of
Who
pictures,
made their own?
The Chinese.
The Chinese made their own.
They made a copy.
Gotcha.
They made a copy.
Excuse me. So Germany would have taken over, and they would have taken over the factory and
They
just
took
pretty
over.
much said, "You guys are working, make me what you make already, but stamp them with my mark."
Well, they sent their own inspectors there.
Okay.
Actually, the Czechs never run the factory. People from Mauser actually come down and run the factory.
Okay.
The Czech workers produced
already
the gun,
knew
but-
what they were doing,
But
did
the
it?
management would have been German, and they would have had inspectors. And what they talk about Waffen amps
Yeah.
is the swatch of the little eagle. That is
Right.
actually an inspector stamp. And they have different numbers on there, real fine numbers. It tells you which inspector, what factory it comes from.
So if people were looking at this and they were saying, what would one thing you would like everybody to know about it? What one thing that is absolutely unique from anything else out there?
Probably the fit and finish and machine work.
You believe it to be one of the best out there?
Well, you've seen how tight I was getting
Sure.
the spin out. This is the upper and lower receivers where they come together. Have you ever seen an AR that tight?
I understand.
And they say the receiver started out as a 27-pound block of steel.
Holy cow.
When they got done machining, it weighed 9 pounds.
That's crazy. What is this? What's that little dip?
Lightning cut.
Is that all that is?
Yeah.
They took a lot out, didn't they? This little dip, if you guys can see that, I was just asking, it looks like it says just a lightning cut, something they took out for weight.
Same way with this.
Yeah.
And lightning cuts.
Now, being on YouTube, looking at a video live, it does not do this type of firearm justice.
No, it
with
doesn't.
overall quality, it's wood, it's steel, it's something that was made to last, and it's heavy. What would the weight be on?
They're right around 24 pounds.
24 pounds. Compare that to a lot of your ARs, right? What,
Yeah.
6, 5, 7 pounds, 10 pounds, whatever. That's crazy.
Now this
Imagine
is
lugging
the
it.
actual original finish. This gun's not been refinished.
Right.
That's the original finish on this gun. The blue, when it would have been new, would have been a real dark, deep.
Would it have been more like this style, very, very dark?
It'd have been very dark, been about like the pins on the barrel. Been
Gotcha.
that dark.
So, if they were going to go look for a barrel, how much would an extra barrel even cost? Because you said a magazine's $80 to $100.
Usually, barrels are almost impossible to find.
But that had been something they would have just ditched. They wouldn't have just kept them with guns. They probably were like, I'm carrying this with me. It's not, barrel tossed.
That I wouldn't know. I would say not. I would say they
It almost makes sense if there was a place to put an extra barrel. Like
well,
down
they
here
had,
somewhere.
they had, I didn't bring one. They have barrel carriers, canvas barrel carriers.
Really?
And they had a canvas strap for the number 2 to carry the barrels.
Awesome. Well, guys, we have a couple minutes here at the very end, if anybody is watching, to be able to ask questions. If you do have any questions, right now is the time to ask. And if you have any suggestions on some other guns that you would like for us to pick up, we got this one from one of our friends. They were nice enough to bring it by and let us talk about it in this session. So this is a lot of cool stuff that not a lot of people get to touch all the time, and definitely learn a little bit more about.
I will go on one more historical fact. on
So this will give some time to maybe if we had some questions.
This is the forerunner of the British Bren gun. The British in the late 1920s, early 1930s was looking to replace the Lewis guns from World War I. And they were going to adopt the US BAR, round and automatic rifle. And the military attaché, English military attaché to Czechoslovakia said, you need to look at the Czech gun. And they liked it better than the BAR for one, the quick change barrels. And
Can't get much easier than that.
they improved them. Actually, the Bren gun is a better gun than this gun, actually. And Bren stands for, the BR stands for Brno, and the EN stands for Enfield, so they actually made it for the British. So
Awesome.
if you look at a Bren gun, sometimes these are mistaken for Bren guns, but a Bren gun is an improved version of this
Sure.
gun. actually.
Well, that might be a gun that we could ask around, see if somebody has, and bring it in, and see if we can
Bren
talk
guns
about
are
it.
really rare.
Yeah, maybe that's when we can find out, or even the BAR. We were talking about the BAR earlier. We could maybe bring that in sometime and see if we can find somebody that has one and talk about it. It's not something I'm just going to have sitting on the shelf, but it'd be fun to be able to talk about. Do we have any questions at the moment? If not,
Someone asked when we'll see it shoot, but we probably
cannot, and the reason being is because on YouTube they have put something on there that we can get a strike if it is a full auto being shot on TV, I guess you would call it.
Yeah.
So we cannot do a full auto version of anything anymore.
Unfortunately.
This is about, honestly, if you read their new guidelines, this is about as close as we can get. Because we're talking about parts, we're talking about pieces, and everything else.
Yeah.
This is a history lesson.
That's right. This is only for history, guys.
Yeah. Hear that,
anything
YouTube?
else?
It's history.
Yeah. Anything else we need to answer before we get off? Not where's Jen?
No, yeah, we haven't had one of those in a while.
Yeah.
Well, someone asked if you'd carry it into battle now.
Would you consider this something that would be up to date enough to carry into battle now?
The only drawback to the firearm is the small capacity mags. As far as reliability, when I was talking about the Wren gun, the British says, well, we'll adopt it if it'll fire 50,000 rounds without a breakage. And when they got to 47,000 rounds and they had no parts breakage or no problems, they said, oh, don't worry.
That'll be all right.
That'll be all
good
right.
enough.
We don't need to go any farther.
That's
So,
awesome.
they're very, very reliable. They just don't break parts, and I didn't show you when I had the bolt out, but the firing pin in it actually is rectangular. It's not round, it's rectangular, so
Really?
it can be bigger and heavier, so it doesn't break quite as bad.
That's awesome. So it's a rectangle. The actual firing pin.
And the hole in the bolt face is actually
Really?
rectangle.
Yeah, that's something we'll have to check out later. So anything else we need to add before we get out of here?
Someone asked, would this be operated by 1 or 2 people?
It was a crew served weapon, at least 2. One, an ammo bearer and an assistant gunner carried the spare barrels and ammo.
Right, because this isn't this is not a belt-fed type gun.
No,
so
it's not a belt-fed.
some dude would have to be loading this thing, right?
They had mag loaders for them.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah,
so
they had-
let's talk about that. What would a mag loader be like? Would it just be something?
It
we were
just
like
bent
a
over
stripper
the,
clip
bent
kind
over
of
the
thing?
top and had a lever, and you would put like 5 or 6 of, 5, 10, whatever you put in them, and you had a
Just
lever.
crunch it down in there.
And well, actually, you shoved it like this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they had mag loaders.
Cool.
Can we say what caliber it is again? What it's chambered in?
Sure.
8mm Mauser.
Which would have been normal for that time period.
Yeah, that would have been a normal cartridge for Germany, Czechoslovakia, Poland. They all used 8mm Mauser. All those countries did. Now, Austria and Hungary, I think they use different calibers, but the Czechs and
The same gun? In different caliber?
No, they didn't.
Okay, all right.
Some of these guns were, they say some of these guns were sold in South America in 7.57 Mauser. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know, but I've heard that.
Sure.
Probably the biggest user of them were actually the Chinese or the Germans, probably more so than the Czechs. Now, this particular gun, it is Czech proof mark, but it was more than likely brought back by a World War II vet. It was probably used by the Nazis because they took everything the Czech
They went in and took it all anyway.
took it all anyway.
Anything else?
No.
All right, guys. Well, this is your Throwback Thursday history lesson. And if there's more that you guys would like for us to talk about, maybe a gun that we could find through one of our contacts or many clients that gladly bring stuff in, let us know. Go ahead and comment those down below, and we'll try our best to bring one in. And this is Jen. He's our local historian that helps us out with a lot of the older farms that we have zero clue about because we're not that smart, and he is. So thanks for watching, guys. Anything else you need to add, Jen?
No, nothing today.
All right, guys. We'll see you.